Ah, that's nice. I was finally able to wash the Mustang since doing the engine swap, and it's looking really, really good. I found a few little chips and stuff here and there that, you know, I'm not like super excited about, but it looks really, really good, especially in the sunlight. It really, really pops. Today, I'm going to a friend's house, and he's going to let me test fit some wheels that he has for some future mods to this car. So I got all the stuff ready for that. Also going to use this in a little bit, and I'll tell you what we're doing with that. First, let's get everything loaded up and head up there. Alright, so we're here with my friend Jayden.
How's it going, guys?
This is his SR20 S13 Coupe with a Sylvia conversion and some body kit stuff, right?
Yeah, it's full Superman body kit, Origin front fenders, BIS rear fenders, D-Max roof wing, and then that's about it. Yeah.
Pretty sweet setup. It's not often that you see like an S13 Coupe around in general, but then, you know, he's got all the whole Sylvia treatment. It's pretty awesome. And what we're doing today is he's got these wheels, and if you didn't know, Nissan and Ford share the same bolt pattern. It's 5 by 114.3 millimeters or 4.5 inches. So we're gonna try it out, see if we can get an idea of what kind of fitment I gotta get for the Mustang front and rear. Alright, so we're starting things up here. I already got the Mustang sitting on jack stands, but the 240 will be a little bit more of a challenge because, yeah, I can get 3 fingers under this car. That's it. Very, very low here. So we got to figure that out. And it's not just the bumper that's low. As you can see, the actual frame points are about the same level as the bumper, which is not super advisable. I don't like having cars that low. You know, this is more of like a track car kind of a thing, like a street legal track car. So as soon as Jayden gets back in here, we're gonna figure out how we're gonna ramp this up or what. I forgot this is a drift car, so you know, who needs ramps when you could just take your bumper off? He swears it'll fit. Oh.
You just gotta work her in there.
Hey.
There you go.
There we go. All right, we only need one side up anyway, so not too bad. Let's see what your suspension droop is like. Not. That's great. All right, so we got Jayden's front wheel and tire off, and this is a 17 by 9 with a 205. What's the 205 40 17 on it. He doesn't think the stretch is that bad.
It's not. Never debeated once.
Yet. My personal preference, if it's a 9-inch wheel, you're probably going to need at least like a 225 or 235, and even that's going to be stretched. This is actually poking the wheel. I don't know. I'm not a fan, but it's Jayden's car. He's happy with it. That's what he wants to do. That's his deal.
You can fit some 10s on that.
Alrighty, so we're not on.
No way.
No, not even close.
I didn't even check.
Oh, there we go. Now we're on. Now, The clearance between the wheel and the strut is like literally on my fingers. It's that much clearance. But see if my lugs will even get in there. Oof.
Like it.
I don't even know how that's gonna work. There's literally, you know, just a little bit of clearance in there. I don't even think the socket's gonna fit on there.
Yes, yeah, I didn't think it would.
Yeah, nowhere. Not even. But that's all right. We're just test fitting. We'll probably just spin them on. Just like this. Oh, we're not gonna tighten them. Just spin them on enough to seat the wheel on there and see how the offset sits, and that's all we really need to know. All right, so we got 3 lugs on there with the old long handle needle nose. It's just cinched down to where it's not moving around, just enough to where we can set it on the ground and see where it'll come out. Already, and even though stock ride height's like here, you know, like fairly high, I'm already actually liking where this offset is, and we're gonna double check the offset when we take it off. But Jayden believes it's a 17 by 9 plus 30.
Plus 30, yeah, and I believe the rears are plus 20, but by 10.
Okay. So yeah, looking good. I was already looking at some wheels that were, I believe, 18 by 9.5 plus 35, I believe. Possibly plus 22. I wasn't sure which one I was going to go with for the front. But in a little bit, we could show you, you know, using some of our handy dandy tools here. If you have at least a close enough reference in the general ballpark of a wheel that fits like you're thinking of buying, like I said, the ones I was looking at is only a 1/2 inch wider, and that only adds a 1/4 inch on the inside and outside lip, and then the offset is supposedly within 5 millimeter, or within 8, and that's honestly not that big of a difference. You know, that's like that much, you know, focus. So it's really not a big deal. If you did not know, 1/2 inch is 12.5 millimeters. Focus. Nope, we'll do that later. Yeah, so we're gonna set this on the ground and then maybe do the rear, see how that fits. All right, so we decided to try this and try my wheel on his car, and actually I'm really liking that. That's a 245/45, so it's a lot meatier than what he had on there, but that fitment's kind of cool. Honestly, if you wanted, you could run Mustang wheels in your car.
I definitely could.
You totally could with the offset and everything, and it totally clear. I wonder if it might not clear. I mean, your tire would be. Oh, there's a problem in here. You don't have a harness tuck yet?
Yeah. It's tucked up here along like the top of the fender.
Yeah, you'd need a little bit of massaging, but in a pinch, if you really wanted to, and you could probably do it for the rear even. Maybe we'll do that next. when we try your rears on mine, we'll stick this on the back too, or that one, whatever. Because I have a square setup. The stock wheels are square setup, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, you could have Mustang drift spares, dude.
I could have Mustang drift spares.
And those tires are dirt. You can find those tires. That tire size is probably the single most common tire size in 17s like ever. Because there's so many Mustangs out there and they all run the same size pretty much. Not just for the new Edge, but also for the SN95 and also for some of the 3-valve, the 05 to 09 S197s. Are you game?
I'm game.
Are you game? Are you baller enough to rock the Mustang wheels?
I think I'm going to rock some 350Z anniversaries.
Ooh, I support that wholeheartedly. All right, so this almost looks like a spare tire on the front of this thing. That's really funny. Versus Jayden's car looks all like beefy in the front with the Mustang wheel. You can tell how much camber he has too, a lot easier. But in terms of clearance for stuff, I'm really liking that. I could easily run the 9.5 around the plus 20, and then honestly, because new edges have this fairly decent lip to where you could just, you know, roll that whole lip, and that's a pretty good amount of clearance. And I'm not going to be lowered much when the time comes for suspension.
Honestly, I think you can get a 10 on here easy.
I have heard of people getting 10s, but I also hear that it looks awkward and it fits awkward. 9.5 is probably about as big as I'm likely going to go, but the clearance will probably be about here. Honestly, like when the time comes, I don't think I'll have any issues with fitment, and it'll look nice and aggressive, and yeah. All right, so we got my stock rear on the 240, and honestly, I like the Mustang look, man. I think it's pretty sweet. That 245 looks mean in the back. Like, that looks really sweet. That tall sidewall actually looks cool.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of space. Honestly, you could Dremel that a little bit just to get a little more clearance. The front will have to. You'll need a smaller tire in the front for sure. But. All right, now time to. This is gonna look funny. All right, so we got the rear on, and honestly, there's like 4 different ways of looking at wheel fitment on cars. There's back space, there's front space, there's overall width and offset, and they all basically mean the same thing. It basically tells you where the front and or back edge of the wheel ends up in relation to the mounting surface, forward or back or in or out, whatever, you know, however you want to look at it. Long story short, I'm really liking the fitment of these, not so much the tires, obviously the tires are stretched, but I'm looking at the actual edge of the wheel itself and where it lies in line with the fender. And because the tire profile I'll likely be getting is going to be similar to the stock one, which not a whole lot of bulge, but it does actually, you know, cover the edge of the wheel, unlike Jayden's setup. So, you know, you kind of got to account for another, you know, maybe let's just say ½ an inch, you know, just to be generous on the outside. The front looks really, really good. If you just look at it from dead above, that looks really, really good. There's just enough. It just clears, if you were to draw a straight line from here to the fender, it just clears just inside of the fender, and it's even more clearance here in the rear. So I can probably go a little bit more aggressive in the rear. The fronts are like dead on. I'm not planning on lowering the car by much. Just enough to get a little bit more of a visual, you know, a visual improvement on the stance of the car. But that really does, you know, the stretch tires notwithstanding, that really does look good. And I think Jayden needs more tire on his car because this looks sick. I really like it. Yeah, look at that.
Stretch life or no life.
I like the meat, looks cool. All right, so we've pretty much had our fun swapping wheels around and seeing import wheels in a Mustang, Mustang wheels in an import. Measured the offset of Jayden's rear wheel already, and I'm gonna show you how to do that on his front. So basically you put the wheel face down and you put some sort of a straight edge, in this case a 2x4. You can also use a ruler if your wheel is small enough, or yardstick works well as well. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's right?
That's right.
So basically you measure from the mounting surface or the back of the hub up to the straight line across the wheel here. And in this case, if we set everything up properly, that's going to be approximately 6 1/4 inches, which, funnily enough, was the same as the rear, huh?
Yeah, it was.
It was
actually.
six and just about 6 1/4 inches on the back space. And so what you can do with that is, you know, do a slight conversion based off the width of the wheel, which is not measured from the edge of the lip. It's measured from the edge of the bead, which it's probably about where this seam is. That's where the actual tire bead seats. A lot of people will measure from the actual lip of the wheel, and that's not right because it's going to give you like another inch, maybe even 1.5 inches, depending on the design of the wheel. And you're gonna be like, oh, I ordered 10-inch wheels. Why are these like 12 inches or something like that? And it's because you measured from the wrong spot. So these are a 9-inch wheel, and we already confirmed the width of the front or the rear. And as you can see on this, if you measure from the right spot, it's also that's a 9-inch wheel as well. So that's both on the money. And a lot, not all wheels. Let's see if I can find it here. There it is. We'll say the metric offset stamped on them, and if you can see that right there, so it says ET 30, which ET just means the offset. 30 is going to be, unless it has a negative symbol in front of it, it's going to be positive, or plus 30, as Jayden said. And what that means is you have your wheel, and there's the actual center line of the wheel. So if this is a 9-inch wheel, you have 4.5 inches on this side, 4.5 inches on that side. And the offset is going to be where the hub actually sits. So if it's positive, then the hub gets moved out to the outside of the wheel, or toward the spokes, if you want to think of it like that. And if it's negative, it's going to move it this way. So positive offset is going to make less of a dish, sort of, and going to give you more backspace back here. This whole area back here from the hub out to the back is the backspace. A more negative offset is going to give you a deeper dish. So if you want a deep dish on a wheel, or if you need less backspace and you need more clearance in the back, and you want more of a negative offset, and what spacers do, like Jayden's, is they will add positive value to your offset. So if this is a 30, a positive 30, and he has, what did you say, a plus 15?
25 on the fronts.
25, so 25 front will make this essentially only a plus 5. So you move your imaginary mounting surface back more, and then it will reduce the essential backspace on the car. So you can either do that, or if you don't want to mess with spacers, depending on how they're set up, if they're a cheap spacer, they can cause balancing issues. You've never had any issues with yours, right?
No.
What kind are yours?
I had an issue with the bolts stripping once, but that was about it. Nothing with balancing issues.
And that's usually repairable.
Yeah.
If you get a quality one that mounts properly, another thing to take note of is hub size. For instance, my car is like a 70-something millimeter hub. That's center bore on the hub. That's that width right there. These wheels.
This is my attempt at trying to get off a C's spacer.
Ooh, wow.
You like that?
That's
You like that handiwork?
was that a grinder or a hacksaw?
That was an angle grinder.
Nice. And you just decided to take the whole
destroy
the whole thing off there.
Yeah.
So center bore is another thing to be mindful when you're buying wheels or looking at wheels, especially used wheels that you don't know. If you don't have a caliper tool where you can measure precise millimeter measurements and such, at least get a tape measure and measure your center bore and try to be as precise as you can. Because these wheels, and Nissan in general, actually they have a slightly bigger bore, and what that means is when you go to hang the wheel on here, that center bore is not going to hang on the hub. It's going to sag down over it a little bit. If it's the same size, it's going to fit right on there. Not too snug, but it's going to fit on there properly, and it's going to center the lugs properly. So each lug hole will be nice and centered if it's sitting on the bore properly. If your bore is a little too big, then the whole thing is going to sag down, and it's going to sit more like that over the stud instead of nice and centered. And what can happen is, again, you can have balancing issues, but also when you go to put your lug on, instead of seating properly down the middle, it might seat to one side and bind up because it's not flat on most studs, so it'll still feel like it's tight, but in reality, whereas it won't torque up properly, and it might pop loose because all of a sudden you roll down the street and then it centers itself, and because it was tightened at an angle and then it popped, and it was tightened like this, and then you go down the street and it goes like that, and now it's not tightened down at all, and then your wheel can fall off. So always make sure that everything is lined up. And if you have a mismatched wheel to your hub size in terms of the center bore, if your hub is too big, you'll have to either get different wheels or you can mill them out like on a lathe if you can find someone to do that. Seek professional help at that point. Or if the center bore of the wheel is bigger, you'll get what's called hub-centric spacer rings or hub centering rings, depending on the what people will call them. And usually they're plastic, sometimes they're aluminum. And it's just a very, very thin little plastic ring that will fit lightly over the hub, and it'll allow the wheel center bore to center properly on there so that you can get your lugs centered on there. So, without further ado, let's put the wheels back. Alright, so we got all the wheels back on respective cars. Everything's torqued tight. Everything's packed back up. We're done for the day. Thank you, Jayden, for letting me test fit. There was a lot of questions answered, and I know where to go in the future in terms of ordering wheels and what sizes I want to get and stuff. And Jayden let me drive his car, and I'll have a video of that soon. Probably check the description for the link for that. Yeah. Fun. Hopefully we see more of friends' cars in the future. Maybe we can all go to a meet or an event or something soon. So, you know, it's a lot of fun. Again, thanks, and see ya.